Death Squared is a 1-to-4-player cooperative puzzle game by SMG Studio. They previously made 2 games on PC, one being a tower defense game and another being a one-button party game called One More Line. Both games were well received but are considered budgetware. So is Death Squared destined to be their breakout high-budget hit? Let's find out. In Death Squared, each player takes control of 1 or 2 blocks. When playing single player, you always take control of 2 blocks. The goal is to move all the blocks to their spaces with their corresponding colors. As far as controls go, you only are moving around, so there's no jump button or anything like that. Every level takes place on one screen, so it's not a linear puzzle racetrack, rather a puzzle playground where you need to figure out how to avoid traps and work as a team to complete the puzzle. Upon completing a puzzle, everyone is scored based on time completed and individual deaths. It makes for a somewhat competitive experience overall, but the best part is the interactions you will have with your friends. In my experience, there was a ton of screaming. More on that later. The game features 2 modes. Story mode can be played solo, but you still need to control 2 blocks, and up to 1 more player can join in to control the second block. The second mode is party mode, which allows up to 4 players. The big difference between the two, minus the player count, is the story mode has voice acting. If you've seen the trailers for Death Squared and follow the YouTube animation scene, you're probably familiar with the voiceover here. Mick Lauer, aka Rice Pirate, formerly of Sleepy Cabin, lends his voice to the game. The writing and overall voice work is well done. It's not Portal good, but it does give extra value to the 1 to 2 player story mode. The voiceover isn't in the party mode, probably because your friends would be screaming over it anyway. From an artistic standpoint, Death Squared is a very clean aesthetic. Reminds me a bit like Portal with the white test lab design and obsessions with giving everything a personality. Even the blocks here have emotes with how they move their eyes on the menu screen. You can even customize each block with accessories. It's not deep, but it's cool that they included it to make your block feel more distinct. Another great thing about this game is the soundtrack, which is composed by Brad Gentle. It ranges from upbeat to intimidatingly upbeat techno music. Going back to the gameplay, Death Squared has some fun ideas for how it enrages your friends, and some of these ideas are downright genius. It would be one thing if you made a mistake and got killed. It's another thing to make a mistake and get your friend killed and you live. Now, whenever someone dies, the level resets anyway, but that little design decision is perfect. Sometimes you might move too far over and hit a switch or cause a block to move, and it would cause one of your friends to get pushed off the edge or get impaled, or both. It's the best part about this game because these death trap mechanics not only add to the rage factor, but also the puzzle design. Using things like color coordination so some players can go to certain areas while others can't, it really gets everyone to work together. The best part about playing Death Squared in my experience was how someone else for every map was always the smart one. For every game, one person knew what they were doing and they were yelling at the idiots who were screwing up. It's funny because one map later, that same person would just mess up and someone else would be yelling at them. It's essentially alternating turns between calling each other a dumbass. I was in tears when I was playing it with 2 other people for the first time. We were all cracking up in between the screaming. It was a great night. It is worth mentioning that one of my friends wanted to tap out because he was getting frustrated. It wasn't because of the game, it was because I was dicking around and getting us killed too often. We were still having fun, but it's the type of game you can play to torture your friends. Alright guys, so let's wrap this review up. I will be going over my 3 standards for local multiplayer games, which are price tier, the pick up and play aspect, and lasting appeal. So for the price, it's floating in the high tier 2 area at $20, making it a bit more expensive than the other tier 2 price games like Towerfall or Invisigun Heroes, which are $15 each. I do feel like you're getting quality over quantity here. Instead of a million maps, power-ups, and modes, you have carefully crafted puzzles designed to get your friends in the mood to murder each other. There are 80 story levels and 40 party levels out of the box, with more challenging levels in the vault mode. It's a pretty healthy amount of levels to start with. They aren't the most complex levels, but some do get trickier later on. As for the pick up and play aspect, X input controllers are supported out of the box, but I've had some issues with direct input controllers. Things like fight pads could work fine for a game like this, as you would only need to use the D-pad, but I couldn't get mine working properly. No buttons would respond, although the game indicated that the controller was plugged in. The game has a counter on the menu for controllers, which is a nice feature. Sometimes I forget to unplug a controller dongle, and it's also nice for diagnosing phantom controller syndrome, which is caused by faulty drivers. This means the controller is detected, but it isn't plugged in. What's also cool is that a single gamepad and keyboard combination can control 4 characters. This is really nice for people who don't have 4 controllers lying around. However, even though a keyboard has more than enough buttons to do so, you can't share a keyboard with 3 other people. So if you want to do the party mode with 4 players, you need the gamepad. You also can't rebind the keys, so if you want extra space by having player 2 use the numpad instead of the arrow keys, you're out of luck. What's worse is that if you use a 60% keyboard, you can't even have a second player because those usually don't have arrow keys. All they would need to do to fix this is give you an option to rebind the keys. Feels like an oversight. As far as gameplay goes, you will need to beat each level before you unlock a new one to play. This is fine, but the vault modes are locked off until you beat the appropriate levels. For 2-player experiments, you have to beat story mode, and for 4-player experiments, you have to beat party mode, which is a lot of levels, especially when your friends are busy screaming at you. So in that case, it isn't a huge deal, but it would have been nice to have these modes unlocked out of the gate, and just a suggestion to start with party and story mode first. Alright, so for lasting appeal, outside of playing with friends, this is where the game starts to fall short. Tier 2 price games often fall into this issue where outside of local multiplayer, there isn't a ton to do, and it's no exception here. There's no online, which is understandable for a game like this, but there isn't a lot of value in flying solo. You can play by yourself and control 2 cubes, and you can get something out of listening to the narrator, and it can be really fun at times. But in terms of lasting appeal, this game is a tricky one to recommend outside of local multiplayer with its $20 price point, but it does manage to stand on its own fairly well when playing solo as a puzzle game. So final verdict time, is Death Squared worth your hard-earned money? Well, if you play local multiplayer games with friends often, you want a fairly simple yet fun co-op title, this is it. If you also enjoy a puzzle game from time to time by yourself, or maybe with a quieter friend to enjoy the narration and music, at $20 this is a good value, all things considered. However, if you own a ton of cooperative local multiplayer party games that you haven't played yet already, and you aren't a big fan of playing puzzle games by yourself, I'd wait for a price drop if 20 bucks means a lot to you. At the very least, it's worth keeping an eye on, as the game does have solid value for game night, and its music and narration for the story mode can keep you going if you genuinely enjoy puzzle games. Anyway guys, thank you very much for watching. I'll see you next time. I'm out.